Welcome to the Space Marketing Podcast, where we look at marketing principles, strategies, and tactics through the lens of space. Hi, I am your host, Izzy House, and wow, today's interview falls on a year anniversary of the Space Marketing Podcast, and it has flown by. I'm celebrating it with a guest that is one of my marketing heroes, and I'm a bit starstruck. Mark Schaefer is a marketing guru with 10 best-selling books, a prominent speaker, a podcaster, a blogger, and more. So let's lift off in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Space Marketing Podcast, where we look at marketing principles, strategies, and tactics through the lens of space. Information relating to our discussion today and links to the video version can be found in the episode show notes on spacemarketingpodcast.com. Please like and subscribe to the podcast. It will help us get the word out about space. Our guest today is globally recognized author, speaker, futurist, and business consultant. He is a prolific writer and speaker whose work sits on the intersection of marketing, technology, and humanity. He has advanced degrees in marketing and organizational development, holds 7 patents, and is a faculty member of the Graduate Studies program at Rutgers University. His blog, Grow, and podcast, The Marketing Companion, are ranked among the top-rated publications in the marketing field. His clients range from successful startups to global brands like Adidas, Johnson & Johnson, Dell, and the U.S. Air Force. And also the UK government, which is huge in space right now. He has appeared on media channels such as CNN, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, and CBS News. And if that wasn't enough, he is the best-selling author of 10 popular books, which we will discuss today. So, hello, Mark, and it's an honor to have you on the podcast today.
Well, thank you. I'm delighted to be here. We've sort of known each other through social media for a long time, so I'm glad to be on your show.
Well, before we get rolling about your books and podcasts, I have to tell you why you and your books are important to me personally. You have wrote extensively about marketing, and the marketing industry has changed a lot in the past 2 decades. So I jumped aboard marketing in the mid-1990s, which had a big digital revolution during that time. And in the early about 2007, 2008, as you know, because you've written extensively about it, marketing changed drastically. So I felt the need to go back to school, and I did. I got a master's degree in marketing, and I was doing some soul searching for what chapter 3 looked like in my life. And I stumbled across Known, which is the first book we're going to talk about today. And I listened to it 3 times that summer because I knew I had been in marketing my whole career, but I was looking for something different. I was looking for a change, and not only was marketing changing, but so was I. And you were at a conference in Louisville, so I had to go, and I actually got to know you there, and you took the time to actually sit down with me and talk to me, and even took a selfie with me that day. And you, in your book Known, you talk about finding your niche. Well, obviously, here I am. I found it. Your book talked about a transition and a growth as well. From the book Known, you were going from your corporate life to your business life. Do you want to talk a little bit about the book Known and how it came to be?
I'm delighted that the book and our conversation had such a positive impact on your life. Known, as I look back, Izzy, It might be my greatest contribution to the business world because I still hear from people every week saying that that book changed their life. And so I would say that the basic idea behind the book and why I started it is even more important today. If I had to rewrite the book, I think the only thing I would really change is to have a greater sense of urgency that we really need to do this now. And I'll explain why. But first I'll answer your question about how I got the idea. You know, I do a lot of personal coaching. Anybody can sign up for an hour of my time. And I kept getting questions like, well, I want to write a book someday. I want to have an online course. I want to be invited to be a speaker at this event. And I kept saying, well, you kind of have to be known. People have to have heard of you. Why would they spend money on the course if they've never heard of you before? Then the next question from them would be, well, how do I become known? And I didn't know. So I wondered, is there a pattern? Is there a process? And I went down this big rabbit hole and found out that indeed there is. And it's not necessarily fast. It's not necessarily easy. It takes commitment and work, but it does work. Now, the reason I think the personal brand is even more important today is because we've got AI nipping at the heels of our skill sets, even in some cases our careers, especially in marketing and white-collar knowledge jobs. And I interviewed a well-known friend of mine, Shelley Palmer. He's a tech analyst in New York, and he said, look, I tried ChatGPT. It was writing blog posts for me, and it was a terrifying experience. He said, I'm 80% replaced. Well, part of that is shocking. Part of that is interesting. What's the 20% that's not replaced? And that's really the key, I think, to our future. And that is Shelley is beloved. He's trusted. He's known. Shelley isn't going to go away. His readers aren't going to go away because, especially in a world of mistrust, of misinformation, of deep fakes, coming back to someone who you know and trust is going to be more important than ever. I think it's our only defense in the business world against AI taking our jobs. Either you're known or you're not. If you're not, you might be a commodity. So that would be my message. And I've been shouting it from the rooftops for a long time. It's not too late, but everybody should be working on their personal brand.
Absolutely. And that's a good segue to the next part, which is, there's not only was Known powerful to me, but your other books have been too. And it has developed my point of view as in the connection and the relationship with the audience. And I don't call them target markets because they're not a target. Well, market seems so impersonal. So your next book really focuses on that, which is Marketing Rebellion. Mm-hmm. And I love that book. So do you want to talk about how AI is nipping at the heels, but how important that makes Marketing Rebellion as the next book to read?
Yeah, absolutely. Marketing Rebellion was a wake-up call. And there were two things that were sort of coming together for me. One was I was doing research on some big customer projects, and I kept coming across these studies, very deep, expensive studies by companies like McKinsey and Deloitte and Accenture saying that loyalty is in decline and, 2/3 of our sales have nothing to do with our marketing, and, customer personas are kind of, going the way, and there's really no customer journey. And I'm like going, what? What do we really believe in as marketers anymore? And yet, instinctively and intuitively, if we think about our own role as customers in the world, it all makes sense. We trust people. We want to hear from people. There's no such thing as a customer journey in a traditional sense anymore. People are coming from different places and going different places. Even Google has written in several white papers, they said, we don't really know what the customer journey is anymore. So that was number one. Number two, I was working on some big projects where I observed these really big companies and brands were just asleep. They were just doing the same thing they had been doing for 5 years or even 10 years. And once a customer has the accumulated knowledge of the human race in the palm of their hand, they don't really need marketing like they used to. They don't need to be manipulated. They don't need to be cajoled into buying something. They can make really good decisions. They expect something different from our companies and from our marketing. And that was what Marketing Rebellion was all about. It was like, here's the business case, like, wake up. Traditional marketing probably doesn't work like it used to, like you may think it does. Here's what's going on, and here are some ideas of how you might change. So that has actually become my best-selling book. That has really been a sensation. It's being used as a textbook it's hard to say how many, but at least 50 universities that I know of. So that's a book I'm very, very proud of.
Well, and I've read it twice, by the way. So it's one of my favorites as well.
The highest compliment.
So during the lockdown, you had another book called Cumulative Advantage. And the most powerful section in this was, in my opinion, was towards the end. You know, that was a gem. Oh my gosh, to be a spark, and it really inspired me. And it's one of the reasons why I do what I do right now, is to be that spark for the kids to get involved in space careers, and for businesses to understand what marketing truly is, not what they think it is. And to be a spark. So you had an experience with a young man in that, and do you want to tell us about being the spark?
Well, Cumulative Advantage is about creating momentum. So even if you're doing your best work and you're just not breaking through, well, that's happening to a lot of people today. So the problem I try to solve with this book was, all right, what are your options to create momentum and sort of get to the next level? And I realized that I had this sort of epiphany that the process of writing this book was really an elitist activity. It was like I was writing a book that some people, it wouldn't be accessible to them. It wouldn't be relevant to them. When you write a business book, you assume people have the money to buy it. You assume they've got the time and the resources and the network to make this actionable. And it just tore at me. And so I thought, well, how do you use the processes and ideas of this book to change that? And momentum is really about this spark. One of the themes of the book was that these opportunities are all around you. There are these fractures in the status quo. We have new opportunities, new doors opening all the time. It's really about opening those doors. The idea of creating sparks is opening doors for others, just giving them some opportunity. And it doesn't have to be anything big. I mean, you're doing work with young people, and I do mentoring, I do coaching with young people, but it can just be answering questions. It can be, for me, it could be like sending them one of my books, helping them on a school project. I have a habit that drives my wife crazy. If a student asks me for help, even like a high school student, I never say no. So my time is valuable, but I never say no. And the reason is I've seen this happen enough in my life to know that when I help a young person, it can create a ripple through history. It can change their career. It can change their way of thinking. I know I've had an impact on people where they have, it's changed their lives, it's changed their families. There was an example recently where I was on Clubhouse, and I'm not on Clubhouse often, but I was a speaker on Clubhouse, and someone, quote unquote, raised their hand. They wanted to join the stage. This guy joined the stage. He said, "Mark, I don't have a question. I just wanted to tell you that you were a guest lecturer at the University of Wisconsin, and you stayed after class and answered my questions. Answer. I know you were tired, but you answered every question. At the end, you told me, you're going to be really great at marketing because you have such a great curiosity. You're asking such great questions. You're going to be great." He said, "You didn't know this, but I had already dropped out of school once. I was ready to drop out of school again. And your encouragement kept me in school. I thought, okay, here's someone who believes in me, thinks I can be in marketing. I graduated, got a job. That's how I am feeding my family. And now I am teaching marketing at the University of Wisconsin." That's exactly what I mean. That's something that everyone can do. Every adult can do this. Is just, send the elevator back down in some small way and create a spark of opportunity that can change a life.
Your business is growing. Your team has more people than ever before developing contacts. You have met thousands of people who are interested in what you do. Congratulations! But now your contact information is growing unwieldy. Other team members are in the dark and they don't know who has been contacted or when. Valuable contact information is getting lost and it is starting to cost you money. It is time for a contact management system, or CMS. Our network sponsor can help. ActiveCampaign is a powerful marketing automation platform that can help you to increase your sales, improve your customer service, and build stronger relationships with your customers. ActiveCampaign enables you to create and send email campaigns, manage your leads and customers, create landing pages, set up automated workflows, and track your results, all from one approachable platform. ActiveCampaign has over 10,000 five-star reviews. ActiveCampaign is flexible, and your fee is based on how many contacts you have in your system. As you grow, ActiveCampaign can grow with you. This podcast is part of the Marketing Podcast Network, and for a limited time, ActiveCampaign is offering Marketing Podcast Network listeners like you a chance to double their contacts for free when they sign up at activecampaign.com/activate. This means that if your email list has 10,000 contacts, you only pay for 5,000. Go to activecampaign.com/activate to sign up today and get organized. Don't let any more contacts fall through the cracks. Again, go to activecampaign.com/activate to sign up today. Well, and true marketing is about finding the pain points of your audience. It's about developing a relationship. It's about helping them get through what they want. Make their business work, make their marketing work. It's not about trying to sell them an ad or sell them a product they don't want. It's about finding out what they need and helping them solve their problem. So, and in your next book, your latest book, which I have already started to read it twice, is Belonging to the Brand. And it's an awesome book where you talk about building a community and using and being a part of that community and making that be part of your marketing as well. As do you want to tell us a little bit about this new book?
Well, the idea first bubbled up in Marketing Rebellion. There's a chapter in there predicting that belonging and community would be a part of the future of marketing. 1 year after that book came out, we had the pandemic. And people started telling me, Mark, your ideas in the book, they're all coming true. They're just happening faster than we ever expected. And during the pandemic, about 85% of Americans turned to an online community as their primary source of emotional and social support. And the idea behind the book is that communities aren't new. There have been communities as long as there have been people. There have been online communities as long as there's been an internet. But there's been a massive opportunity that's overlooked, and that is viewing community from the perspective of brand community. More than 70% of all company online communities are for customer self-service. You have problems with your software, go to our community and they'll help you. And they're overlooking, when you think about a brand, you think about building connection, building loyalty, building emotion, doing collaboration and co-creation and being relevant in cultural moments. That doesn't happen if you're just turning people over and say, go get your problem solved, then they won't go away. That only happens if you look at community through a brand marketing perspective. And that's kind of a radical idea. What I'm saying is communities shouldn't be a stepchild of marketing. We need to look at this, and the time is right, because we live in a world that emotionally, psychologically is whacked out. They're isolated, they're lonely, they're depressed. Not just children, almost every generation. And so there are mega trends coming together that point to this idea that community is the future of marketing. I call it the last great marketing strategy, because I'm convinced when all of these other things fade away, we're still going to have community. And one little, point of bragging is when I wrote the last words of the book, the manuscript was done. I was ready to publish. The day I wrote the last words, McKinsey came out with a major white paper that said community is the next big thing in marketing. So I nailed it.
Yes, you did.
And it's true. And this book is having the same kind of impact that Marketing Rebellion had. It's sort of like a wake-up call. It's changing the way people are thinking about marketing. So that's very rewarding.
Well, and sense of belonging has always been a powerful emotion for everybody since there have been man or woman and man. So you really, the community captures that sense of belonging and feeds that particular need that we have. So one thing I would like to point out about all of these books is that you personally read them in Audible. And that's how I consume books, because there's just way too much attention for my eyeballs. So I actually listen to all my books on Audible. And a lot of people hire people to read their books, or they have AI do it, which we had talked about AI earlier, and it is getting really good, but you can still tell there's something missing. And when you read your book, it's like it's developing that relationship, and I get to know you, and I feel like I know you through the books because I've been hearing you. So I just want to say, that's important, and keep doing it. It is definitely something.
Well, it's hard work. It's not easy, that's for sure. But a lot of, I do a lot of the teaching through the books, through storytelling. And I mean, a lot of the times they're my stories. There was a story in Cumulative Advantage about early in my career, I was working on a project that was dependent on the space shuttle, and then the space shuttle blew up, and it completely changed my career. And so nobody can really tell that story other than me. I mean, I can't imagine AI or some other narrator telling that story. I mean, you could probably hear it in my voice, just even reflecting on that day that we had that tragedy. I'm sure you could hear it in my voice, and I don't know another way you can do that. So it's hard work. I'm going to keep doing it.
Yes, please. So, and I read my books as well because even there's been a couple of authors that did not do a good job of reading. You are not one of them, but
Yeah.
But even still, even a bad job at reading is so important that I mean I got to know them and see the real them. So there's something that, like you said, there's something that you pick up that you just can't put your finger on, and it makes it genuine.
Thank you.
So there's a couple of other authors that have also impacted the marketing that I preach. And you and David Meerman Scott are at the top of that list. And David Meerman Scott, he wrote Marketing the Moon. So you can see where that comes.
Well, David and I become friends. Yeah, we become friends over the last couple of years, and he, he put his like Apollo collection online, and he also has a collection of the press kits from the Apollo era, and so that's very fascinating. So he is one of the most interesting men I know, and certainly a wonderful author.
Yeah, and he wrote the forward to my book, Space Marketing. So
awesome.
So, and during one of the podcasts that I was listening to over the past couple months, it was brought up that you were also a space enthusiast. So I had to ask you to come on.
Well, I mean, look, as a little boy growing up in the 60s and 70s, I mean, that was just everything, right? I mean, I remember I had big notebooks of clippings from the Apollo project. I followed everything. I knew that I was witnessing one of the most important events, one of the most important times in the history of the human race, and it was just so exciting. And my interest in space was really stoked by, I had a great uncle who was an astronomer, and he was a plumber by trade. I don't think he even finished high school, but he read voraciously, and he taught himself astronomy, and he would make his own telescopes. He would grind his own lenses, and he made history he created the first domed observatory in his backyard in Pittsburgh. And there's actually a historical marker there. So he was just my hero when I was a little boy. His house was filled with letters from presidents and senators and astronauts about his contributions. He was the founder of the first amateur astronomy association in the world. It was based in Pittsburgh. And before Einstein moved to America, he was visiting America. And my uncle wrote him, my great uncle, and said, "Would you visit our astronomy association?" He said, "Yes, I'd be delighted to." So there was a big picture in the newspaper of my great uncle meeting Einstein. I still have that picture. And so Einstein had heard my great uncle was a plumber, and he said, "Well, Mr. Scanlon, I'm so glad to be here, and I have a question that I think you're singularly qualified to answer." He said, "Oh, yes, what is it?" He said, "Where is the restroom?" So, so he directed Albert Einstein to the restroom, and the rest is history. So that I just love that. My granduncle's house was like a museum, and he would teach us about the stars and the planets, and we would look through his telescope. So I got hooked as a young child.
He was a spark.
He was absolutely,
He
at
was a spark.
100%. Yeah, he was a living, walking spark to almost everybody he met.
Apollo, that was a marketing thing as well. I mean, it was one of the, if you have any case studies that you study at all, Apollo program would be the one to study, because when they had to get the American people on board, and one of the things I compare it to is that with Apollo and with the Inspiration 4, which is recent, what they did that was so powerful is that we did not watch them go. We went with them. So we were a part of the mission. So we belong to the mission, which goes back to what your other books are all about, is belonging. We were a community, and we were a worldwide community. So, yeah, that's I can't look at I look up at the stars, and that's how I got inspired to do space as well. It was my dog, believe it or not. She requires walking every night, and so I would go out, and then I was also working with Civil Air Patrol, and one of the cadets gave a talk about one of the SkyView app, where you can look up at the sky and you can actually see which planet you're seeing.
Yes,
And
yes.
I was hooked. Both of those.
Yeah,
Those.
I use that all the time. Almost every clear night, I end up just, looking at the stars. I have this, it's something I never take for granted. I always play this little mind game, and I think, if the stars only came out once a year, it would be the greatest spectacle we'd ever see. And people just take it for granted. So I'm a fan of the app, and as you were talking there, it made me think about what a great brand NASA is in a world where people are generally distrustful of scientists and the government. NASA people still wear NASA hats and NASA shirts and NASA jackets, and they're still a great tourist attraction. And so they've done a good job. Maybe it's because it's just such a source of universal pride, and I think there's a part of us that, one of the ways that creates connection and belonging when there's like a we and a they, and I think we're always thinking about, oh, we don't want to fall behind. We got to be cheering for NASA.
I think it's one of the few things in today's world that is positive. It's a positive thing. It's an inspiring thing. It's a hard thing. Space is very hard. Business is very hard, but space is very hard. So, there's a part of us that we want to reach for something difficult, and there's a sense of pride when we accomplish it, and we do it together. And the International Space Station is all about building a worldwide community.
Whenever, like, I always watch every movie or television show that comes out about Apollo or space. And even woven into those programs, there's this theme of marketing. There's this theme of, getting the funding, getting the senators on board, getting, the senators were basically kind of the customers in a way, getting the general public on board, getting the general public to understand why we're going to spend billions of dollars when we still have poverty in places. So that's always been a conversation. That's always been part of the narrative. Still is today.
And they were genius. They were a small group, and they got all these businesses to expand their marketing. And it provided an avenue for the businesses to promote space and to be a part of that community. And it was genius because they were able to amplify their efforts while helping brands with a message that was inspiring, that inspired everyone across the world.
Mm-hmm.
So it was genius. It was really genius.
Yes, it was.
So you have an anniversary, by the way, that you just had for your podcast, I believe.
Oh, right.
10 years. 10 years. So today
10
is my
years.
1 year.
Yeah.
Today
well,
is my 1 year, so I got a
congratulations.
long way to go. But
Well,
10 years.
yeah. I mean, you beat the odds too. I think the average podcast lasts like 5 or 7 episodes, something like that. So, So I'm proud of that. We're well into our 11th year, and I beat the odds. But I think for me, the key to success is having fun with it. If you're not joyful about it, then your audience is going to know. And so one of the things that's unusual about my podcast, actually there are 2 things that are unusual about my podcast. Number one is I only do it every other week. Most shows are every week, but I only do it every other week because if I did it every week, it wouldn't be fun.
Okay, that's a very good reason.
And I knew if it's not fun, it's not going to work. If it ever becomes a burden, the audience will know. The other thing is, I didn't want to be burdened by scheduling guests and making sure the guests have the right audio set up, and then, oh my gosh, they didn't show up, and what am I going to do this week? So I decided to have rotating co-hosts. And I don't know of another podcast that has that. There probably is. But I have 6 co-hosts, and we just take turns. And that way, there's a chemistry. I don't have to worry about them showing up. I know they're going to have good audio. I know it's going to be interesting and relevant. And so that makes me happy. That's part of the joy of the show, is I don't have that administrative burden. So those are 2 things that are unusual, 2 unusual decisions that I made. And the reason is, if it's not fun, it's not going to work. That's why podcasts have such a short life usually, because people just get consumed by the administration and all the editing, and so if it
Marketing.
yeah
The
yeah
marketing of it, yes.
yeah. So I don't even really do any marketing. It's embarrassing. It really is. It's embarrassing how sub-optimized most of my content is. But I spend most of my time creating and having fun creating, rather than doing the blocking and tackling, unfortunately.
And that's what I love about what I do, is that also too is I get to learn about space and all of what these.
Yeah.
I mean, it's awesome to learn about space and all the companies and the amazing things that they're coming out with. And I originally started the podcast to write my book, because when I was trying to get interviews done, it was coming to the end of COVID, and people didn't want to do one more Zoom call. They just didn't. So Jason Falls, which is actually the organizer of the event that we met at.
I'll never forget it. It was a really, really fun event.
It was one of my favorites. So he does such a good job. Well, last summer he says, why don't you do a podcast? And so he has been instrumental in helping me, and all the interviews have gone back into the books, and I'm working on my 3rd book right now, and all those interviews will go into that book. And so it's just a blast. And pardon the pun,
do I get to be in your next
sort
book?
of. Absolutely, you're in the other ones.
Oh, okay.
I list you as of one of the important reads.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. I mean, like I
I'm
said, I'm a little
tickled.
bit starstruck. Yeah, I'm a little bit starstruck. So it's so is there any other things that you want to talk about today? Some upcoming things, some sneak peeks, some because
Well,
you can't not write.
yeah, well, I'd say a couple of things I'm excited about is, so I took my own medicine around community, and a couple of years ago I started an online community, and the purpose of our community, which is called Rise, which is sort of short for Rise Above the Noise, is to learn about the future of marketing. So this has been an incredible learning opportunity for me, just to learn the difference of community versus other kinds of marketing. So that has been incredible. It's been so much fun, and it's free and it's open. So anybody who's interested in joining the community, it's they're welcome to join. All you got to do is go on my website, businessesgrow.com. There's a thing that says community, and it's just become my university because people from all around the world are contributing new ideas and new perspectives. There's, here's new things that we're seeing, new technology, and so it's been wonderful. The other thing I'm excited about is I do have this marketing retreat every year, and that's the best thing that I've done in my life, really, in my professional life. It's magical. I mean, and it's limited to 30 people because we can really build meaningful relationships in a couple of days. And so it's called the Uprising, because every rebellion has to start with an uprising. So that's something I'm excited about. It's been a wonderful experience. And then I am thinking about a new book, and the trajectory of my career has really been about how do we become the signal against this noise? How do we stand out? I think it's particularly difficult today, and we need to be thinking in bold. We need to explore bold new places where we've never gone before, and bold new worlds. Um, and that's so I've kind of got some crazy ideas that might lead to a new book. But writing a book for me is such a commitment. It's such a
Yes.
sacrifice. And I'm not the kind of person that's just going to do it with ChatGPT. It's going to be me. It's going to be my stories, my lessons, and with a lot of facts you can count on, and a lot of insights. So um, you know, but I'm getting closer to making the commitment to locking in and saying yes, this is going to be the new idea. But I'm starting to get excited by it.
Well, in writing a book is hard, and especially towards the end. Oh my gosh, there's nothing else exists that last little bit.
Right.
So
Oh,
and
right. I mean, it's exhausting. It is just all consuming.
with Rise, you talked about how you were getting it was a global community, and that's one of the things that I really want to point out as well is that it's global. Everything is global. Our world has gotten so small, with
Mhm.
communication, and it's only going to get even smaller. So, um, if you are only, I mean, communities can range in size and location and everything, but I recommend we think globally.
Yeah, and I've been so fortunate, Izzy, that I haven't really had to think global. I mean, the world kind of came to me. I mean, my when I started my business, I thought, well, I live in East Tennessee. I'll probably work between Tennessee and Virginia and North Carolina, close to where I live, and then I started to create content, started to work on my personal brand. And what I found is that instead of finding my ideal customer found me, and they were everywhere. And that's why I have a global community, because I have people who love me, and they become friends. And so I mean, Australia and Singapore and China and us and all over Europe and South America, Mexico. There's people from all over in my community, and I didn't have to recruit them. They just wanted to be part of it, and that it's a wonderful experience.
And it's easy to find who your community now with online. Um, Another thing that I do is called Space for Kentucky, and when I was looking at the analytics, the ironic thing is that 40% of the people that viewed the recordings, 40% came from the United States,
Hmm.
much less Kentucky. So
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's just our world is so small and so big at the
Yeah,
same time.
that's about.
So
I think mine is. I mean, I get better statistics from my blog, I think, and it's about. I mean, I think like my blog every month. It's almost 200 countries. People in almost 200 countries read the blog. Most of them are in America, but then after that, it's all over.
yep, and it's so easy with being able to translate into different languages, by a click of a button. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting. So all right, I have one question that I ask everybody, and
All right.
it's what thoughts do you want to leave our audience with today? What do you want them to mull over as they go throughout their day?
Well, we've covered a lot of territory today because I cover a
Yes.
lot of territory in my books. But I think there is one theme that kind of goes through all of them. And the subtitle of Marketing Rebellion is The Most Human Company Wins. I think that's a really important thing to think about in this world where it's easy to become intoxicated by AI and automation and algorithms. And the irony is, personalization has become impersonal. When I see something at the top of an email, they just slap my name on the top, or it says, Dear, your name here. I mean, that's just a red flag to not even open it.
Right.
So there is a difference between personal and personalization. And, what I encourage companies to do is think about every place we touch our customers. How can we show our face and our smiles and our hearts? How can they see our passion for what we do? How can they experience our compassion for them and for our world? And that's the most important thing we could do to be more human in every one of our marketing interactions.
Which will only shine even more bright as we go through with AI and everything that's going on. It has its place. It really does.
It
And
does.
but
Oh,
yes,
absolutely. I use it every day. I haven't used
yes.
it to write. I haven't used it to write. I should probably, but
Uh,
so much of my writing is just me and my perspectives, and it's faster for me to just write it than you know to try to get the right prompts to have AI do it. But I recognize it's a tool. I've been using it for like analyzing data and maybe some research, prompting ideas. But so far, all my content is me.
yeah, and the few times that I've actually asked it to write an article is like I read it and I'm like, that's not what I meant. So
Yeah,
I ended up rewriting
little
it
little too
anyway.
little too
So
stiff. Yeah, I was just gonna say I'll probably use it when it can start becoming snarky and funny.
and I bet you anything that misspellings will become more important because AI is so perfect.
Yeah, maybe.
For misspellings have been like a bane to my existence ever since I started in the
Mm-hmm.
marketing career, and it might just be a flag to say I'm human. Now
Yeah.
we'll figure that out one out. And thank you so much for being here,
Well, thanks for having me, Izzy.
and I'm still pinching myself that you're here. So I do appreciate it very much.
Aw, thank you.
A special thanks for Mark Schaefer for sharing his journey to marketing and to space. Be sure to check out his links listed in today's show notes. Please like and subscribe to the Space Marketing Podcast to help get the word out about space. I hope that you have found this podcast useful for your journey as you reach for the stars.